Först ut är Camilla Nielsen-Englyst som kommer från den danska organisationen Bofäelleskab och Global Ecovillage Network som ska ge oss en överblick över utvecklingen i Danmark där det byggs just nu. Så varsågod och kliv upp, Camilla.
Tak så meget for, at jeg kunne få lov at dele lidt fra Danmark. Jeg forstår, at I ikke alle forstår dansk. Så jeg skal prate svenska. Nej, engelska. To make it a bit easier for you, I will speak in English. Yes. I will say bogemenskap. Jeg har lært det. Bogemenskap, bofællesskab in Danish. Yes. I just have to check how this works. Yes. My presentation today will give you a few, entry points to how we can create more and better bogemenskap. So I will show you, with all my different hats, different entry points to the Danish scenes. And when I mention many different hats, it's because I live in an eco-village. I have worked for a developer who wanted to create eco-villages or Bofællesskaper, bogemenskap. I am a board member of the Bofællesskab.dk, and I'm very much engaged in the global movement for eco-villages in Denmark. So I have quite a few hats, and I will speak from those different hats, because they all form what is me and what I can give you. Yes. This is where I live. It's an eco-village, but it's also a bofællesskab, a bogemenskap. And I think that counts for all the eco-villages in Denmark, that we live together, and we live together as a bofællesskab, as a bogemenskap. Even we have this eco thing on us as well. This eco-village that is here, it's 17 years old, and it is actually a quite typical eco-village from Denmark. Typical in the sense that it's a little bit outside the cities. It's like 8 kilometers to the nearest train station. What is typical is also that in the beginning it created a little bit of resistance to come and create an eco-village like this. But now the local municipality will show all their guests around as if it was their own invention. Well, why is it that they now like it? It's because we are very good taxpayers. It's also because we provide in an area that has almost no social and cultural activities. We provide climate debates and yoga, children's camp, and all kind of things. And we are resourceful people. We like to live together, we like to do things together, but we also like to not be a silo, but to look outside and create a whole lot of resources in local areas. And therefore, of course, creating an eco-village like that has become a success story for the local municipality. When you're a new citizen in my municipality, you will be put on a bus, taken around sites in the municipality. One of the stops will be our eco-village. Well, they say, here in our municipality, we do a lot for the togetherness of people, and we do a lot for the green agenda and these kind of things. So it's kind of interesting how an eco-village that some years ago was like this kind of hippie, radical invention has become something that is now being shown off as like the new wave, kind of. And that's quite typical. And we have a lot of these in Denmark. This one we have we are 55 adults and 35 children, which is like a quite normal size for these Danish bofællesskaber. We live in funny houses. A lot of people come to look at our houses because they're different. They're all homemade. We've built with clay and wood and seashells and all these kind of things, and that's interesting for people. So this is, in some ways, an example of the older generation of eco-villages, whereas today they look a little bit different and are maybe not as self-built as these ones, and I'll get into that. I think one thing that I will say to differentiate what is an eco-village compared to a bofællesskab is, like, for instance, some of the things we are proud of are our intentions. I don't know what you see on this photo, but I can tell you that it's 3 different photos of a refugee project we had in our eco-village for 2 years, where refugees came through 4 months for like rehabilitation of trauma in our eco-village. They also learned Danish because they had shared lunch with us every Wednesday and these kind of things. I think to lift social tasks like this as a community, we can only do that because we live together and we have facilities, people and whatever who can do that. So I think that's the way in Denmark, at least, that many of the eco-villages that differ from the Bofællesskaber, from the bogemenskaper, that we have intentions of doing something more than living together in our cozy eco-homes. Yeah. Oops. There are quite a lot of eco-villages in Denmark. And I speak about this because, yes, in Denmark we do have a proud tradition of living together in kollektiver, bogemenskaper, and eco-villages. We are actually the nation in the world who have most eco-villages for a small population. A lot of people, researchers and whatever, come and tell us that fact. Yes, and want to study us a little bit. All these eco-villages that we have maybe 32 full-fledged eco-villages and like 10, 12 on its way. Right now. But the interesting thing is that we have been somehow overrun so that not so many new eco-villages will start up. Instead, we will have what we call bæredygtigt bofællesskab. You got it? Good. Sustainable eco-communities, whatever. So it's like we are moving a little bit away from this eco-village term towards something that is more mainstream. And nowadays, when you build something new, how can you not promote an environmental agenda and these kind of things? So where these eco-villages started out being a little bit more radical, we are now mainstreaming a lot of the eco-village values so that we stand on the shoulders of the eco-village movement and do things now that are similar but more mainstreamed. I have put 4 little Swedish references in my presentation. One is that this year we celebrate our 30 years anniversary of the Danish Ecovillage Association. And for a long time we have been known as the first national network for ecovillages in the world. But it's not true, it's actually the Swedish. They started in '86 in an organization called Njord or something like that. I can't even pronounce it. Yes. Now Ero. And Ero has been a little bit down for some time. But now they called the Danish National Network for assistance. And how can we revive the Swedish Ecovillage Network? So now there will be here in November a big event in Ängsbacka to really revise the Swedish eco network. Yeah. Ero. Yeah, that's very interesting. And it actually stands a little bit again, the difference between ecovillages and Bofællesskaber for me is that the ecovillages are very much interlinked. Because of our history, we started as a little bit opposing a norm or whatever. So we are very much together. So it's not a coincidence that the Swedish network will call or contact the Danish network and say, hey, can you help us? You are a very thriving network. We are quite sleeping. How can you assist us as our neighbors in our global network to assist us to go on? We also together involved we call the Baltic Ecovillage Network. It actually started in Sweden, in Söderbyn in Gotland, and has been running for 10 years, where all the countries around the Baltic Sea who have ecovillages meet and promote ecovillage movement and these kind of things. And then, of course, we are in the ecovillage movement in our Global Ecovillage Network in Europe. And that's why sometimes I say that my ecovillage family is not only the ones I live with at home in Denmark, it's actually a global family. And I think that's a huge difference for me being in the ecovillage movement. Okay, I think that's almost what I had to say about the ecovillage movement. Only I would say that in the ecovillage movement we do a lot of project work to how to actually be better in disseminating all the knowledge that we have. How to assist new ones to come up. So we have, for instance, this one, a program called CLIPS, which is like a community incubator. How can you assist new groups in forming new communities? And this is an interesting work because it's 8 different countries in Europe who have developed this together over 5 years. A model, a game, a whole lot of methods and so on. So we do have a lot of tools. Like this evening, for instance, Ramin, a guy from the French National Network, he will have a presentation tonight, navigating legal, financial and governance models for communities, because they have a very successful model in France where they have raised 6 million euros to give out as cheap loans to finance 50 community startups. And we are listening to Ramin about his story to see how can we, in some ways, contextualize it in our other countries so we can follow the French example with the inspiration from the French network. So I think it really pays off to be in this network because we can learn from each other. And I think that's also like Jesper and I, when we were asked to come here, of course. I mean, we are working together to promote this agenda of people living together in a different way. Yes. So yeah, again, back to the Ecovillage and the Bofællesskab distinction. Yes, Ecovillages being slightly more intentional, often self-built, having a whole lot of characteristics, where what we see now also in Denmark is that in the Bofællesskab scene, it now forms a market for developers. We are commercializing the Ecovillage values and Ecovillage ideas to creating more mainstream communities. Økoby or whatever you call them. Also in the Bofællesskaber we have also a lot of senior communities, also subsidized housing, public housing, and yeah, more mainstream, which means that it attracts more mainstream people than those hippies who started out with the eco-villages. And I think that's the movement that many people come to Denmark to study, like how come we have this growth in Denmark? And how did it come about? And what are still the obstacles? And how will it look like in the future? I'll just get back to my own eco-village, because 5 kilometers away from my own eco-village, suddenly this concept came up. It was a company called Ecovillage.dk. They simply took our eco-village word and made a website and a domain and a company and want to create commercialized eco-villages. And for a grassroots person like me, who built houses with clay and wood and seashells and this was quite provoking in a way. So it's a predefined concept called an eco-village. These 52 eco-houses, communal dinners 4 times a week, very limited influence from the people who are going to live there. So in all the eco-villages where we kind of choose our own neighbors and all kind of thing, here they build the houses and then you can buy number 14 or number 27 and then we hope that you will become friends and do something together, right? So when this Ecovillage.dk concept came up quite some years ago, we were a little bit shocked, or maybe we were just like frozen a little bit in the eco-village movement and said, what is this? What is happening now in Denmark? So that's very interesting, and we've been following that and also being part of it actually with great curiosity. Because I must say, eco-villages in Denmark, do you remember how many I said we had? 32, right? It's just a very, very little fraction of the Danish population who can live in those eco-villages, right? Co-housing and Bofællesskab, we have many more, like 500-600, but we would like to have more. How can we get more? That's what we're going to talk about. And of course, a commercial developer like Ecovillage.dk, they have a chance to generate a lot of new projects where people can move in and be happy, living together. So we are not standing on the side as grassroots shouting at them. No, we are embracing them. We tell them, thank you for creating opportunities for more communities to grow. What we can offer is some assistance for you to make better communities. Yeah? So that's what we do. Yeah. This is the first one by Ecovillage.dk. You can see it looks slightly different from the photo from my eco-village. Houses are quite similar to each other, and that's fine. I mean, it's wooden houses, they even have a solar-powered swimming pool and these kind of things. So this eco-village is like 15 minutes away from me, and it became so popular. It's like 45 minutes outside Copenhagen. What's not to like? All the academics from Copenhagen moved out there. So they made one, and then it was so popular, so they made another one next to it. So it's called Skråningen 1 and Skråningen 2. Yes, very original. Yes. So this is the new growing market, and Jesper will tell you much more about this growing market of eco-villages. I just wanted to say that as a grassroots person, from the first freeze, we've come with open arms to embrace this new movement so that we can have more people to live in communities, because that's what we believe in as an organization. Just one question. How many of you live in a community? Good. I feel already more home. Good. Thank you. Thank you. this one is I think it's the most well-studied Danish eco-village. How many of you have been here? I can count at least 3 who've been there. Yes, I've been there with you. Yes. This one is, I would say, one of the most well-defined Bofællesskaber in Denmark, operating with 3 different ownership forms and whatever. Whenever we receive international visitors, they come and see this place. Because it became so popular that there are now 10 different projects just around it. So Munksgaard, as it's called, number A, is now surrounded by B, where the mayor of Roskilde municipality lives as well, and a whole lot of other projects just around it. You can see here how many houses there are. Like Munksgaard was the big one. It had like different living groups, so with 100 houses, but all the others are like between 25 or 40 or something like that, all around here. Why? Because it became popular. People wanted to move there. When something is popular, what happens? It creates a market, right? So, of course, this municipality, they were quite forward-looking. They said, wow, if it's so popular to live in Munksgaard, why don't we open up for more of these things to happen? Maybe not as hippie, eco-village-like as the first one, but a little bit more mainstream. So you'll see the number B, right next to Munksgaard, it's a little bit more, mainstreamish, kind of. But what also happened is the price of living in this area is enormous. Even in Munksgaard, in the owners grew up here where they have free flow of market forces. The last house that was sold cost 7.4 million kroner for a 120 square meters house. A 20-year-old wooden house. Not very fantastic house, but a very fantastic community, right? So it's the community that cost, kind of. This, of course, brings other considerations, like how can we create this kind of projects where people who are not academics living with 2 incomes and so on, where they can live. It didn't happen here much in Roskilde. But other places, of course, they are starting to consider how to do that in a way that is a bit more inclusive. Yes. And what has happened is, of course, that we have many new players in the market. Whereas before, it was mostly the eco-village movement and so on. I think especially the last 5 years, we have a whole lot of new actors in the field. Architects, of course, contractors, pension funds, who can no longer invest in weapon and oil or whatever, they can invest in new communities, right? Especially the green ones and the senior ones, right? Very safe place to put your money because it's very high in demand. So what happens now is that a whole lot of different actors are coming on the stage. Some of them, Jesper will talk about the more commercial ones. But what also happens when all these different actors are in the playing field is also, I'll jump a little bit faster. Oh, I will actually show this one because that was another of the Swedish references. You know this one? Bavarian, yes. That has become quite popular in Denmark as well for the seniors to move into this nice place where they can play petanque in the winter and sit under the palm trees. Any of you know this in Sweden? Have you been to any of these Bavarian projects? Yes? It's become quite popular, especially among the wealthy seniors. Yes? I will show you this one as well, because one of the new actors is these ones. Alminder. We are all Nordic, right? Alminder is a very old Nordic name that counts. And what they claim to do is that they want to rethink the way that we meet, dream, design, finance, build, and live together. And they even, here comes the third Swedish reference, having a shared holiday project in Sweden where you don't own your own house, but you own a little share of it, and so all the Danes can come to Sweden and live in a nice shared holiday house in Skåne. Yes. So these are just a few of the new actors on the stage in Denmark. And what I wanted to show with this is also that when all these new actors came on the stage, what also happened in Denmark in the organizations. Before, we didn't have like a co-housing organization in Denmark. We only had the Ecovillage Association. And there was a need to somehow build up a new actor, an interest organization or whatever for the co-housing projects, for Bofællesskaper, bogemenskaper. So in 2018, we got together and created this association for communities in Denmark, because there are many, and they are becoming more. So there was a need for this, and I was part of starting it. And what we have, we actually started with having this one, like a website where you can advertise when there's a house available in your project. So I think we have still like 2,000 people every day who comes into this website. It has become the place to go if you want to search for a community, or you want to search for somebody who wants to move to buy your house in a community. And you can see a huge diversity. It's both the commercial ones and the self-grown ones, the old ones, the new ones, all of them that are part of our database. We have a database with around 600 projects in our database. We do this advertisement, we have projects. We also, seek political influence. And I'm a little bit ashamed to say it, but in the 30 years that the Ecovillage Association has been in existence, I think the 5 years that this Bofællesskab.dk has been in existence, we have been more political active than the Ecovillage Association has been for 30 years. Which means that we are invited for hearings, for working groups, for ministerial meetings and whatever, because there's a huge interest. Ecovillages was not so interesting. They were too small. It was such a niche. But this one, wow, big potentials, right? Both financially, planning-wise, environmentally, lifting up the rural environments and so many things. So when these things are becoming so interesting, then we also need a strong actor, like a lobby organization, and that's why we created Bofællesskab.dk. We also do a lot of networking. That's also why we are part of this Nordic network with the other Nordic countries about how can we inspire each other, what can we learn from each other, can we make shared projects and these kind of things. Yes. And then we run something which is quite interesting, because in the beginning we thought we were mostly for the people who do live together. And we arranged every month we have something that we call Fridays with Communities, fredag med fællesskab. It's like a 2-hour webinar about a community-centered topic. It could be how to design an inclusive shared dinner scheme, or how to run a shared car thing, or how to have willow waste cleaning system of your water, or whatever. And a lot of people come. The one we had of the shared dinner schemes, we had like 65 people signed up, right? So it's becoming popular. But what is interesting also when you see the participant list is that all the developers, they also send some people, because they want to know what's going on. Because they are designing something that they don't always know something about, right? So they have to learn from experience. And I think this is where the Bofællesskab.dk really comes to its right, that what we have is the data, the experience from all these communities, all these people who live in communities, who are willing to share their knowledge, their experience, their ideas, for all these new projects to become better. In short, you can say that what has changed in Denmark is that before it was like this. I lived like 2 years in a very, very small little wagon while we were waiting for our building permissions and whatever, and we built together our community. Over here, the developers will build it, and then they will find people to live in it. In the middle, we have this interesting niche of companies who develop a concept and say, okay, let's see if we can marry this concept with a group of people and together create a new project. So these are like the 3 main ways that we work in Denmark right now. And where we can say that when it has been somehow, the self-grown communities have been leading for some time, but now it's mostly the developer-driven and the concept-driven communities that are taking off quite strongly. Yes. A little bit about the pioneers, the followers, and now having a mature market in Denmark for this. So yes, the challenge here is how to embrace and include different target groups, different kind of projects. We are always asked, what is the definition of a bofællesskab in Denmark? And we are always a little bit like, do you want one definition? Because they're all very different. So how can we embrace the diversity of projects that are in this sector? And then how can we develop projects that consider different price ranges and opportunities, so it's not only for wealthy people? That is really a challenge. Also, research in this area is booming, I would say. There are a lot of questions. Do they really contribute, these communities, to environmental or climate goals and these kind of things? Are people less lonely? Do they use the health system less and these kind of things? So as an organization, Bofællesskab.dk is also engaged in several research projects. That's also why me and Jesper, we know each other well, because we've been working together on different projects. As a research institute and then as a grassroots organization, we can bridge and do something very nice together. So yes, this one, a mapping of communities in Denmark. Who are they? Where are they? How old are the people living there? How long do they live there? Is it true that it's really the wealthy? Is it true that it's most women? All these theses that we had, all these ideas that we had about these questions was examined. And it was quite interesting because we, of course, ran into the definition thing. So in the beginning, we had like 1,200 to pick from. Then we put it down to 800 to 600 because we narrowed our definition. So in the end, we mapped quite a lot of these communities, and we have a brief here, which is also out here on the table, which gives a lot of the results. I will only show you a few of them here, but I can say again with my grassroots cap that when I show people around in our Bofællesskab, I think it brings a lot that they are not just interested in my community, but I can tell them how the overall scene in Denmark looks like. I can give them facts, right? So it actually adds something to feel part of a movement, a trend, something that's trending a lot right now. Yeah. Yeah, these are some of the data that we got. This about who actually lives there. And I think the most shameful one is the one that we have nobody with non-Western backgrounds living in our communities in Denmark. We do have a lot of people with children. We have a lot of people with high education. According to this is the average in Denmark. You can see like we get a little bit closer to who actually lives in these places. Also actually the ownership forms. We also kind of map that, like the mixed ones, the private rental owners, cooperatives, and the subsidized housing. And here you can see that even I was complaining that, ooh, they're so expensive and da-da-da. There's actually quite a lot of these co-housing projects in Denmark that are state subsidized, which means that we have quite a lot of people in Denmark living in this type of houses. Yes. So here you see the map of the eco-villages and then the map of many of the communities that were mapped in this mapping exercise. And you will see that they're mostly around the cities. Yes. So a challenge here is also like, okay, how can we create more life in the rural landscapes by having more of these projects out there? Yes. I know I'm running out of time, so I'll speak a little bit fast. Okay, this is just to show another research project that we are also part of, how we can exactly create an enable environment for more of these projects to grow. What was interesting about this one is that there was these results coming up from a research project that people living in eco-villages produce like 31% less carbon footprint than the average Dane. And those are facts that some people like, right? In their planning. Wow, that's smart. Let's get more of those, right? So how can we create more of these places where people pollute less to the world, right? So this project was about defining the interesting notion of living in a community, of being together, how that can be supportive more than anything else for the green agenda. And this was in the past. There are a lot of results from it, but what has been created now is a project called Samskab, which we in Bofællesskab.dk, we are part of it. And it has these different research questions like how to create sustainable living communities. And this is also about all the gray communities, as we call, all those that were built in the 80s in Denmark who didn't have like a green agenda very strongly. How can we make them green? So we call it from gray to green. Yeah. So we are looking at how can we green all the already built communities in Denmark. Yeah. And then again, the institutional cooperation. What is the role of the the housing organizations, the municipalities and so on as drivers of this development. So we are examining these things over like 3.5 years. And I can just say again with my grassroots cap, it's very good and very helpful for us to be involved in these research projects, to shed more light, give us more arguments, help all our members in how to actually establish more of these, not based on guesswork, but based on actual facts. Yeah. We've also written this about the development, trying to capture this from countercultural ecovillages to mainstream green neighborhoods, a view on current trends in Denmark, like how can we capture the way that these new communities are being brought up, bottom up, top down, or from the side, and these kind of things. So it's interesting for us to have a research angle on these matters. Yes, how are we to the time? Okay, feet. I mentioned the work with municipalities. How many of you are planners or working in municipalities and so on? Some, but not so many. We know at least that two of the fundamental challenges for these projects to grow is a lack of flexibility in the municipal and local plans and in the processing in the administration. That can stop a lot of dreams. And another one is a widespread ignorance in the administration and among politicians. Even we say that everybody in Denmark knows this concept. Sometimes you will still meet people in the municipality who says, what is this? Is it like for handicapped people, this bogemenskaper and these kind of things? So there is a knowledge gap, right? So, so there's a need for us to understand the different obstacles, to better mitigate them, and to showcase all the opportunities that municipalities have to lead this process, right? Because we do have a lot of municipalities, and even on our website we have a list, and this is just a sample of the list of municipalities that we work with quite closely. Yesterday we were invited to Copenhagen municipality, who said, we have 9 a co-housing project, and we have 10 on the way. Can you help us? Because we don't know so much about it. And so on, right? So there's a need for these municipalities to learn from what has been done in a smart way. And as a grassroots organization, we have to find out what kind of qualified response we can give. Yes, so to do that, we have in the Samskab project made a survey to all the 98 municipalities in Denmark, asking them, why would you like to have these projects in your municipality? What do you do for them? Is it mentioned in the political plans? And here they can see which advantages and potentials do you see, and they can click off and these kind of things. We also asked them about this one, for instance. What is experience as an obstacle? And what have you done as a municipality? And we mentioned what you can do as a municipality. And we asked them, do you know about this? Do you know that you could do this? Yes or no, or maybe, or something like that. And we can see that many municipalities, they actually don't even know what they can do within the law, right? And we ask, do they feel comfortable in the gray zone? Because we know that those municipalities who are a little bit more forward-looking, they actually succeed in having some very successful projects. Because they do it together with the people, with the developers, with the architects and whatever, where those who have the no cap on constantly, they don't really get any new projects, right? So we asked them, how do you feel in the gray zone? How do you feel agreeing to dispensations, confronting norms and laws and these kind of things, and so on. In the tenders that you give out, how much like community vibe can you put into it, and these kind of things. So that's very interesting to hear what they are responding to that. Yeah, 2 minutes, okay. Fast. Now I speak fast, okay. In November 21, almost 2 years ago, this report came out, which was highlighting the barriers, the obstacles, and whatever, coming up with some recommendations. One of the recommendations was that we would like a central advisory unit for community to grow, for municipalities, developers, self-grown groups, whatever. And that has come, and they are not here today, and that's why I show it to you. Yes, because Thomas got sick. So we have this advisory service now for 5 years, and it's a great thing to have. Because when some of our members, with my grassroots hat, go to the municipality and they say, no, it's not possible. Then I say, oh, maybe you can call the advisory service. Because they have 3 people there who will tell you what is possible and what is not. And sometimes it's just like the weight of the words in the advisory service, somehow it's stronger than mine. When I tell them, oh, it's possible, it's seen before, yeah, it's not possible, they say. But if they go here and they say it to them in a state-financed advisory service, then suddenly it actually helps. Yes. So what do? They advise. They spread knowledge. And if we tell them, oh, it's so difficult to get the finances through, could you please make an analysis of whether the houses in these co-housing projects, whether the value will go down or the value will go up? And then they made it. And that's a really nice weapon to have when you sit in these financial negotiations to show that you need a loan for your co-housing project. So that's basically what they're doing. I cannot talk about this. This is, again, we made something that we call a start package for new communities. There's also this book here about like a handbook for building up new communities. These just form a lot of the entry points. Like if you sit and have to put up a new community, it's very nice to see 10 different lists of working groups, 10 lists of common dinner systems and so on from other communities, isn't it? Smart. So we are doing this, and I think that's a very nice idea. This is the last Swedish reference, and this is, now I can't even see it. Pippi Lotta Victor Bodja Badja Badja Efrains Data Langstrømpe. Pippi Langstrømpe in Danish. That's a Swedish inspiration, because coming from the Ecovillage grassroots background, I must say we couldn't do anything like this if we didn't have some Pippi power. So thank you, Sweden, for Pippi. Jeg har aldrig mødt en udmanding, som jeg endte kunne tage. Det har jeg aldrig prøvet forud, så det klarer jeg helt sikkert. Iblandt er det cool at være lidt gallen. Jeg tror på at gøre saker på mit eget sæt, even om det indebar at gå mod strømmen. Tak.
Stå kvar lite. Du får stå kvar.
Ja.
Ja, men visst blir jag inspirerad när du pratar, och visst är det så att jag känner att jag vill låna så mycket från er in till oss. Bland annat så undrar jag lite grann vad vi ska göra här för att få till en vägledningsenhet på statlig nivå. Vad gjorde ni?
Vad gjorde vi? I mean, we were part of this ministerial working group, and one of the obstacles is exactly what I said, that a lot of, especially the self-grown groups, they meet a lot of resistance in the municipalities. Therefore, we need somebody that the municipalities would trust, right? Yeah. So there were a lot of different people, not only the interest groups, the lobbyists, the self-grown groups, but also architects, advisors, developers, and so on, who said we need to shed light on these obstacles. We need to work politically for this to be easier. Therefore, there was a lot of support, actually, for building up this advisory service. In the beginning, they said we are going to advise for everybody. But now they say, maybe all these self-grown groups, maybe you can take them in Bofællesskab.dk, then we take the rest. I say, then you have to give us some money, we say. Yeah. But okay. But yes, they are being used a lot. I mean, and it's from everybody, also developers. Because even I'm a grassroots person, the developers, they meet exactly the same challenges as we do when they come to a municipality. There are some legal issues, of course, some planning issues, some social issues also when putting together a group, and all these challenges actually form a little bit the same set of challenges that the advisory service can help us lift. Yeah. So it's lobbyism, isn't it? It's mentioning your needs, kind of.
Hur är det med frågor? Har vi hämtat oss efter lunch?
Lite grann, vi har ett par stycken bara. Ja. Ska vi köra?
Ja, vi kör.
Ja, men vi kan börja med... du har kanske ställt den precis. Är det någon annan sån tydlig, viktig lärdom från er som vi borde ta med oss? Förutom just vägledningsgruppen. Is there any... vad fan säger man? Lärdom?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. No, a key thing that we should work with to be able to really explode our co-housing markets.
I think the way that it has become mainstream in Denmark has become much easier, of course. So, I mean, supporting also the developers in running good projects. I mean, Jesper. But what Jesper is doing, and what he will talk about now, is studying all the developers, how they have managed also to learn. And maybe the first project was somehow, but the next one will become better, right? And this about being together, all of us in that, creating an enabling environment together, showing that it's all of us together. Both the capitalists and the grassroots and the architects and the people who are going to live there and the financial institutions sitting around one table. And I think that's what we have been good at in Denmark, bringing all actors to the table. We have it also now in the advisory service that we have an experience group and we meet every second month. I'm the only grassroots person there, but all the others, they have a lot of money and a lot of influence, right? But we are all around the same table, chipping in what from ever stand we have into their work. And I think that means a lot that we are all there. We don't work separately, we actually work together in our differences, in our diversity. And the coming together, I mean, that's what you're also doing here, I guess. You also come from every kind of angle of this field, isn't it? And I think that's strong. When so many different actors mention the same needs, bam, it has come.
Jag tänkte på, du sa bofällesskap, vad kunde vara allt från allmän, det vill säga vi säger kommunal eller hyresrätt, tolkar jag det som. Ja. Det kan också vara eget ägande, andelsägande, olika typer av upplåtelseform och olika typer av förvaltning. Ja. Vad är de stora skillnaden mellan dessa bofällesskap? Finns det någon skillnad mellan om jag är hyresgäst i ett bofällesskap eller om jag äger min bostad?
Ja, det gør der. Og i Danmark eksperimenterer vi meget også med at have bofællesskaber, hvor der både er lejere og ejere sammen. Og lige nu er det også et spørgsmål om at undersøge, jamen, hvilken forskel gør det? Når man sidder til fællesspisning, kan man så se, at du ejer og du lejer? Nej, det kan man ikke. Men kan man se det på beslutninger? Ja, det kan man. Når der er penge på spil, og ejerne skal betale mere end lejerne, så bliver det problematisk nogle gange. Ikke? Så det der. Der bliver talt meget om, hvordan man i Danmark... forstår I mig? Ja. Hvordan man i Danmark kan få lejere til at have en ejermentalitet. Og det er nemmere i et bofællesskab, fordi man netop tager meget ejerskab for sit sted og det sociale og sådan. Så det bliver der arbejdet en del med, kan man sige.
Mer fråga på det?
Absolut, och det är en följdfråga lite grann för att frågan är hur påverkar ekobyar bostadssegregationen? Finns det risk att bostadssegregationen ökar med ekobyarna?
Jag fick inte det sista.
Finns det risk att segregationen ökar med ekobyar?
Nej, det tror jeg ikke. Jeg tror, I think the ecovillage movement is very happy that we have influenced mainstream. I think that's really great. I mean that a lot of the new green eco communities growing up, that they come and visit the ecovillages that are there and say, we want to do something similar to you. We will maybe take 20% from you and integrate into our new projects. Thank you for what you did. We have learned something from you and we will take it on from here. I think that's great. We are embracing that development a lot.
Ja, vi får fortsätta prata och fånga upp Camilla om ni har fler frågor. Det tänker jag göra för jag vill kopiera både det ena och det andra från er till oss. Tack så jättemycket för att du kom och delade dina erfarenheter.